Hey, Lonzo Ball, it's your agent.
What's up?
I've got a commercial opportunity for you from BuzzBall's Ready-to-Go Cocktails.
Nice. My last name is Ball. The product is a cocktail in a ball. I get it.
That's what I thought too, but no. They want you for your hands. They think your big hands will show off the size of their new Blue Biggies ball.
Big blue balls? Really?
Get blue balls this season with BuzzBall.
Please drink responsibly. BuzzBall's available in spirit, wine, and malt. 15% alcohol by volume. BuzzBalls LLC, Carrollton, Texas.
Ampire. Hey babies. Hi everyone. It was very, 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 very sour about Kevin Willard the other day, Callow, which I'm going to get into in a little bit. I'm going to start with football, actually, because I want to wait a minute and rear up for it, because I'm super tired. Don't get stuck in the Fort Lauderdale airport for 5 hours. Just don't do it.
I would say don't get stuck at any airport for 3 hours, but that one is, or till 3 a.m., but that one is particularly bad, yes.
I didn't realize how bad that place is. I didn't know that was like a zoo. I've never seen so many people in an airport outside of like Atlanta. Atlanta's like that, but Atlanta's a hub.
Yeah.
I don't really understand what's going on here, but that was horrible. We had weather. It wasn't their fault. Flights couldn't get in, couldn't get out. Florida was pouring. And I guess it was raining here too, whatever. Like we couldn't get out for a while. So it's not like I'm not blaming anyone, but don't get stuck there. You'll thank me later. So I was there for the Florida Derby, by the way. I went back to my old roots, went to a major horse racing event. It was fun.
Nice.
We had fun.
There you go.
All right. Okay. I'll get to Willard in a bit. It's not like we all didn't see it coming, the way he was acting. And I'll tell you my thoughts in a minute. But the owners' meetings are going on right now. You guys want me to talk about football? I will. Here we go. Adam Peters, Dan Quinn will speak over the next couple of days. That'll be good. So we'll get some updates of where they are and what's next. They're not done, they're not done here before the draft. I think there is, well, maybe after the draft, there will be a second wave of free agency. There's still holes on the team, on the roster itself. So they've got things that they need to do. But of things that are relevant to us, of other teams' players, Zach Taylor did speak to the media today. Zach Taylor talked about Trey Hendrickson. He was asked about him. And his answer to it was, be patient. We're working through the process with him. And that thing has gotten super quiet and so quiet over the last few weeks. Either Hendrickson's not going to pull a public outrage move or he's stuck. And I think it might be a combination of both, because they got that Chase and Higgins deals done together. And now they're kind of back to the drawing board here, slow rolling this one. But I think he's in prison, for lack of a better way of putting it, because it doesn't sound like they actually really want to trade him. So that got real quiet. And all I heard today was, don't worry about it. It's going to get done one way or the other. He may or may not like the outcome.
Well, and I think what also happened here too is people were probably already apprehensive to trade for him and give him the $30+ million, except then the Myles Garrett deal happened, and now 30+ is like $35+ million probably. I mean, I don't know if someone's going to do that, but like the market is what the market is. And so now I think some teams are a little more hesitant to make that deal.
Yeah, the price tag part of it is starting to get me a little bit. What you hear from what they want for him had me out from, which is why he hasn't been traded. That's had me out the whole time. Also leads me to believe they never really actually wanted to trade him. Well, they don't. Well, I mean, he's the one who asked for it. They don't want to do it. There was never like, we're dangling him. Oh, by the way, we want some absurd thing in return. One that asked to get out. He does want $30+ million a year. I actually think now, if that's the number, 30, like that may have changed. If that's the number, then the Bengals really have no excuse not to give him that, honestly, based on what happened in the marketplace for players that I would say are a little bit above his caliber, but not that much. And his numbers are what his numbers are. And he's not Myles Garrett or Max Crosby, but he's not that far removed from it. So he deserves something. And I just think like this thing got so quiet, tamped down so fast. I just don't see a scenario by which they're trading him anymore, unless for some reason someone comes along with a first round pick. That's it.
Yeah, and I don't see that happening, at least for this year's draft. I mean, maybe if someone really needs one and it happens after the draft, they make, a big trade like that. I don't foresee it happening at this point because there is no market for it right now. Like, it doesn't seem like anyone's hot and heavy to get them. I think that's where I've kind of landed on here too. The demand isn't there to make that trade.
This team has spent some money, notably on Javon Kinlaw, but that's $15 million a year. They did, guarantee Debo's contract, but it's upwards of to 20 if he were to hit all of the escalators, and maybe he will, maybe he won't, but so it'd be upwards of 20, which, they haven't done anything like this yet. I think that's the other thing too. Like, let's just say they are still interested and would like to have him on the team and are open to it. They still haven't done anything like this yet, where they go, okay, what's market value for this person at the highest degree? Like, we can argue Law got a better deal than he should have or not, but he's not getting paid like top tier defensive tackles or defensive ends. Like, we can argue whether he deserved the contract he got, but he's not getting Milton Williams money. He's not getting what Osa Odigizua got. He's getting a lot below that, actually. Hendrickson, this would be, right, the first one, if they actually acquired him and paid him, that would actually be full market value for a top-tier player that's not your own guy. They haven't done anything close to that yet in now what is 2 off seasons. I wouldn't have expected it in the first one. And seeing how they've operated so far and seeing what their options were, honestly, so far, they haven't gone this direction at all. So I'd also now be surprised if they did something like that.
No, at the same time, too, like, you have to be careful what you are spending again, because they only have 4 draft picks going into next month or
5
picks going in. And what I should say is this month. But they only have 5 picks, and they, once again, with not a ton of draft picks and the way that they've handled their roster, will have to turn over half of it again next year. Like, they weren't going to fix this in 1 off season. They're not going to fix this in 3 off seasons with the way that the roster is. So the stability isn't exactly there either to also just add a guy where you once again are going to have to go and turn over 15 to 20 players all over again.
That's right. So there's that one. As of a year ago, we were talking about this guy, Brandon Aiyuk, the contract that he signed in the summer, which feels like San Francisco regrets doing, partially because I think they just want to kind of reset a lot. You've seen how many players are gone, including Debo and others. And I think that they're probably working through some situations like, is McCaffrey even playing? What can they do about it if he's not, et cetera, et cetera. And it became very clear when we traded for Debo. I remember I got asked to go on a station in San Francisco to talk about it. And they openly asked, do you think Washington would try to get Aiyuk as well, knowing the relationship with Jaden Daniels and knowing that they needed receivers? And I was like, I don't think so. Like, not going to get both of them. I think we're not the right team anymore. But it was pretty clear at the time. They were kind of like, anybody want him, we'll take something for him to get out of the contract. And it appears as if it's too late now because there's some trigger that's going to hit tomorrow in his contract that's going to make him untradeable. So that one's over, and he's probably going back there as of tomorrow.
Yeah, no, I saw that too. I forget what the escalator is or whatever the clause is. I think it's like a $20 million roster bonus or something crazy like that. I never foresaw them trading for Aiyuk. I also don't think there's as much of a resume for Aiyuk to just be like that number 1-ish type dog where we've seen it with Debo. And also, Aiyuk got hurt pretty early last year. Like, they probably want to go with a better commodity in Debo. And you don't know what the cost was going to be either. Like, what is the draft pick that they want back for him? They're not just going to give him away for a 7th round pick. So I don't know what the compensation is there. And you're committing more financially there as well, where there will be holes again next year that you're going to have to address. And, they haven't addressed Terry McLaurin yet, who's going into a contract year. Like, we're going into a little bit, like, I know it's not going to go the same way, but remember there was that year where the Redskins had both Garcon and Jackson to be free agents, and they both walked. Like, this is what we are actually facing again. I don't think they're going to do that again, but I don't think they want another one. I don't think they want to commit to Aiyuk instead of committing to the other two either.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think this is the one, probably with the ownership out there, that broke them and said, because it feels like every messaging and what they've done ever since has suggested that too much money was put out, and he's the one that if there was going to be a sacrifice a year ago, it should have been him, and they should have traded him. And listen, nobody could know he was going to tear his ACL. Like, that's terrible that happened to him, right?
Of
like
course.
that happened. So that was a terrible outcome. But like all along I was screaming, go get him, go get him, go get him. Jaden Daniels' best friend. Peters, you know him, he's good. Go get him, go spend all the money for him. And they kind of were dancing around it, but I think reluctant to do something like that in year one. And I think it was actually the right thing to do to not do that in year one. I remember just going over and over and over, going, this guy isn't Jamar Chase. He's not Justin Jefferson. You got to be really careful here. And I think even in San Francisco, they know this. And now they're stuck with this particular contract. And it feels like it was the one where the ownership finally stood up and said, we got to stop giving everybody massive contracts. Like, we've been really close. We haven't won anything yet. And honestly, like, this one doesn't feel like the right one. And now they're stuck with them. So the ownership was, in this case, unfortunately, because of the injury, right. And I do think that some of the things that are happening out there right now they're reacting to what they feel are mistakes that they made over the last couple of years. He's a prime example of it. Contractually, he's a good player, not a great player. That's what it is.
Well, and I would also say too, Aiyuk didn't, earn any favors with how he acted during the whole negotiation process. Like, there are times where I get it. Guys negotiate and they want to bend things and they want to bend the narrative. And I get it. It happens in every single sport. But he was like unhinged about it last year too. Like, flying in and hanging out with Jaden Daniels at Tyson's corner and then, filming practice squad. Like, he was dragging us into it. And at the same time, how were they feeling about it? Like, dude, you're still under contract here and you're going through all of these things. I'm sure it's an attitude thing as well. Like, say what you want about what players, when they want more money or they want more years added on. That was about as unhinged as we've gotten in a while. And like, I know news cycles are different now, so people kind of just forgot how he acted, but man, it was every week there was something with him trying to drag himself here. And I'm sure the 49ers at some point were like, dude, you can't just force yourself to another team. And then they paid him anyways. I do think there's a little bit of this here too, where San Francisco is probably feeling bitter about what happened a year ago, to be honest.
That's right. Mike Tomlin said the Steelers are willing to wait out Aaron Rodgers. There is no timeline. I guess they're not going to put a timeline on it. There is no timeline to put on it. They're not picking high enough to get Cam Ward. They're not trading up for the number one pick. I guess we'd have to see if they're interested in any of the other quarterbacks if they're available. I think Shador is the mystery of the draft. He could go really high. He could slide. Like, I don't really know what's going to happen with him. There's no other quarterback that I think is going to jump up into the top 10. So I suppose they could kind of, if they like Jackson Dart, I suppose they could wait it out, something like that. And they have no other options at this point, unless there's a surprise or unless they want to pay whatever the price is to get Kirk Cousins. Like, there's not much to do here. Like, they're kind of cornered. So this is of their own making. Like, when you're in a situation like this where you're desperate for a quarterback and you don't have a quarterback, well, I mean, they had two. They had Fields and Russ. They decided not to sign either one of them or make either one of them happy. So they have consistently now, really since the end of Ben, wildly mishandled this position, which is why they're in the position that they're in. And just consider that for a moment. They had Russ and Fields. Russ didn't sign for a lot of money. Fields signed for decent money, but not incredible money. So it's not like they got crazy deals somewhere else. There were people like Daniel Jones that were available. They didn't want to do that, which feels like it was kind of on this level. So I would ask them, what are they waiting for? And I gotta be honest, like, everyone keeps going at Tomlin all the time. Here's another thing the front office is doing. Like, why don't they have a quarterback in April? You don't have Mason Rudolph. You don't have one quarterback on your team. What are you waiting? You had two last year. You have none right now. What's going on?
I feel like this was a telegraph by the Steelers to say that they are drafting somebody. I mean, they have to almost at this point. And the way that Tomlin spoke about Rodgers when they asked about the visit, Tomlin also, like, he didn't go into specifics, but he basically just said nothing is imminent, but we wanted to get to know the guy and we wanted to get to know what he looks for in a team and like what he wants in this situation at this age. I thought that was a little bit of a tell of, I think they told Rodgers, we want to sign you and draft somebody. How willing are you, to do that? And I don't know what that answer is, but to me, it feels like the Steelers are basically going, we want to roll the dice with one of these young quarterbacks and sign him. Maybe he is going to say, let me see what else is out there after you draft this quarterback. Like, that's the only thing I can kind of think of here, because I don't know if Rodgers is going to agree to that. Like, think about where he didn't sign as well. He didn't sign all of Minnesota. Like, that seemingly has fizzled out. And maybe it's because Minnesota was like, watch out. Like, if we do sign you, we might have to go to JJ at some point. How do you feel about that? I think that's how I've read both of these situations, is that Rodgers possibly doesn't want to go anywhere where he's even remotely threatened to be benched. That's how I feel about it at this point. And so with the Steelers, I don't know where that lies you, but I feel like they have to draft somebody because there is no one else at this point.
If that's true, it's just unrealistic. He's 40 years old. Like, his play hasn't been, you would expect it. He's 40 years old. Like, his play hasn't been the same. He's had a major injury. If he's delusional enough to think that, like, I'm going to be the number one in perpetuity when I'm searching for team 3 and can't seem to find anybody that, like, really, really, really wants to commit to that, then he's just being delusional if that's what it is. At the same time, the Steelers have just wildly mishandled the quarterback position for a number of years now, and I can't believe it's March 31st and they don't have one on the roster that you would look at and go, okay, that guy's going to be the guy. So let's see what happens. The other thing that's going on there, Tush Push is actually in trouble. It looks like it's going to get, I don't know if banned is the right word, but there's going to be something seemingly is coming out of this. There was reporting that there was like some vicious argument between Howie Roseman and a couple of other coaches, because it looks like the momentum is going that they're going to remove this, and they've already started messaging it. They're talking about it as it's an unsafe play. That's how they're talking about it, that they're putting people in a position that it's an unsafe play. And if that was the case, I don't know why they allowed it going for like 3-4 years running now, like they did. You can't stop a quarterback sneak. You can't stop players for going like low with leverage if that's what they've been taught and they're good at it. The only part you can remove from this is the pushing part of it, right? So they're not getting rid of the Eagles quarterback sneak. You're not going to be allowed to push Jalen Hurts anymore. That's all it is. That's what's, and they're just going to reaffirm that rule or get something in writing that makes it very strict. If you do anything like that, we're going to penalize you. Period.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is where I thought the momentum was heading once all the chatter started up, that essentially they're just not going to have Saquon Barkley pushing the quarterback, into the offensive line, into the defensive line. That's where I felt this whole play, like, how do you beat that? You really can't. And I even joked about it with you. What is then going to, if they weren't going to stop it right now, what is going to stop a team from putting a offensive lineman in the backfield and pushing the quarterback as well? You know what I mean? Like, this is going to get weird with the rules. So that's the only reason why I can think of, like, the momentum's happening now is some team, like, I don't know, like, there's some other, like, McVay is going, if you're not going to ban this, I'm going to put my biggest offensive or defensive lineman to push my quarterback through, and good luck stopping that. So I think that's where we've landed here, is other teams are probably pushing back like that.
Yeah. I mean, there's this part of me that I hate when teams do something that the league deems legal, and we could argue whether it was the whole time, but, like, I hate when the league steps in and goes, well, because one team happens to be really good at it and everyone else is pissed, we're just going to ban it. When the real answer always should be figure out how to stop it. Is really, because it's like the rules aren't tilted in the favor of the Eagles on this. Anybody can do this. It's just they're the only ones that seem to know how to do it, which is odd in its own right. But they're the only ones that seem to know how to do this effectively. And the league is just recoiling from it and saying, well, it's just too much of an advantage, or it's too unsafe. We've just got to get rid of the thing. And I don't come from a place, like, I come from a competitive place. I look at this and I go, come on, like, we can do better than that, than just say it's illegal now. That said, it appears as if every other team hates it. So they're done, and but you can't stop a quarterback sneak. So it's just going to be about the guy standing behind him. That's it.
The other argument here, though, is like even the Commanders argued it, that the formation that they use isn't exactly legal either. Like, I think that's
what the refs said. The refs should have been calling that.
Well, and I think that's what's pissing people off, though, is it's like the Eagles keep bending these rules. Like the Lane Johnson thing, it's not illegal, but it barely isn't, right? Like, it's either against the rules or it's not. And I think that's where teams are probably getting sick of it. They're like, here's the Eagles, in a game, not to sound cliche, in a game of inches, they're constantly going up against the line. Also, no pun intended on that one, but going up against the line of what is legal and what isn't. And they're getting away with it every single time. Right. So I think this is honestly, I think what it is this is coming to a head of the league, just being like, we're sick of you going up against, and barely crossing the line. And it's made a difference. And you're now with the Super Bowl champion. So guess what? All eyes on you when you do stuff like this. You know
what's so crazy about it? Like, if Belichick was doing this stuff, they'd call him a cheater.
Yes, 100%. I mean, I didn't want to say that, but like,
he would. Because when he was quote unquote innovative or knew the rule book better than anyone else and knew how to get right up on the line and do things, they had to change rules because of him. They called him a cheater for doing that stuff. This is very telling about the Eagles don't have this reputation. And do you want to know why? Because, and this is what's ridiculous about like I guess what everyone thinks of Nick Sirianni. No one thinks of him as the genius. Nobody does. So they're doing these things, and it's almost as if people treat it like in spite of the head coach, as opposed to, the head coach might be the one at the forefront of doing these types of things that is giving his team an edge and an advantage. And it's very telling how people feel about Sirianni, that no one calls the Eagles cheaters over things like this type of stuff.
Well, I think it's because we've seen the Bill Belichick quote unquote cheating, and no one's putting it up against that yet. But we're now in the day and age where if you do call someone a cheater, you're then gonna have to back it up, or everyone pushes back at you and says you're calling him a cheater because you suck. So I will say no one really goes that route anymore, is what I would say.
Yeah, I mean, like I get it that some of the Belichick stuff was he watching people's practices, and that is definitively cheating. I always hated the stuff on they've got a camera on the other team's sideline in a real game, watching signals, trying to figure it out. And change your signals, buddy. Like, it's happening in public. Like, don't get mad at him for deciphering your signals when you're doing them in public. If you're doing them at your practice field, fine, I'll hear you. He shouldn't be doing that. That's illegal. That is cheating. But on game day, if you do the same signal 15 times and some Connor Stallions person comes up and figures it out and tells Belichick, and they start calling your plays out before you call your plays out, that's a little on you, buddy, that you couldn't figure this out. All those other things that were happening on the field, the little stuff that he figured out how to deal with the rules. Remember what was that playoff game? Or was playoff game or regular season game where Vrabel had watched him do that thing where if you take a penalty and the clock just starts over again, but it doesn't stop running. And he did it to Belichick. And they figured out people were using his powers against him, which then forced the NFL to change the rules. This is the part of this thing that bothers me. I'm not suggesting they're cheating either. I just find it funny that when Belichick, they called him nefarious. When the Eagles have done stuff like this, they act like Sirianni couldn't have figured it out on his own somehow, because it's not him that has anything to do with the end result. This is the same thing, though, with all that stuff. Anyone else could have been doing this all along. They just couldn't pull it off. And so that's why there's part of me that's like, you're banning something that you could do. You just don't do it as well as them. And it makes you mad.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but at the same time, you also aren't going up to the line and making an illegal formation, though. It does not cross your mind to actually go and do that. Sirianni is. So I just think there are other coaches that are like, I'm not willing to go up and do that. I mean, here's the other situation that's the reality of it all, too. Whose offensive line is better than the Eagles? Probably nobody's. Right. So that's the other side of this, too, is they have the personnel to pull it off. I don't think there's probably a team that has 3 better offensive linemen than the Eagles do at this point. So that's the other thing, too. Their personnel is dictating that as well. Let's say they age out in 10 years and maybe they can't run it anymore. I don't know. That could be another side of this too.
Yes. All right, let me take a quick break. Bram Buster Show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital.
At Sierra, discover top workout gear at incredible prices, which might lead to another discovery. Your headphones haven't been connected this whole time. Awkward. Discover top brands at unexpectedly low prices. Sierra, let's get moving.
It's time for basketball, and Uber Eats is dropping deals on game day favorites to keep you locked in on the action. Like when you're craving a buzzer beater, but also buffalo wings. Or when an upset makes you want to ugly cry into a pizza. And right now, Uber Eats has game day deals from McDonald's, Popeyes, Pizza Hut, Wendy's, and hundreds more local favorites. So you can keep your eyes on the ball and your hands on a hamburger. Order now, only on Uber Eats. Product availability varies by region. See app for details.
Well. Kevin Willard turns out to be a giant snake and liar and leaves for Villanova. He's going to tell you at his press conference that he really didn't know where he was going during the NCAA tournament. And he, of course, would never speak to his agent about what his next moves may be while he's focused on a season. Or he and his wife really hadn't had a discussion about it all along up until this point. But whatever, we all know that to be a blatant lie. I want to give some credit to, there's a lot of very good reporting about this. Jeff Erman, who was on the show last week before all this stuff happened, right before the Florida game. So there was no conclusion. So we were just talking about at that point what was going on. Others have kind of tried to figure out what's happening. I'll give Chick Hernandez this because he went on the air after the Florida game and literally, I saw a clip of it, literally said, Kevin Willard is lying to people right now. It's a done deal. And it was like, listen, in this day and age where you hear stuff like that, hot takes, like sometimes you know that people are just saying things to say things. Chick was reporting that, and I want to give him a lot of credit for it because he went on the air, and that's a tough thing to do at a legacy place where they don't want you doing things like that unless you know. And he walked on the air and said he is lying to the fans right now. He's lying to the school. He's lying to everybody. You'll see he's already got a deal done with Villanova. And of course, Willard had to wait a couple of days to pretend like he was thinking about it. And then, of course, does it Baltimore Colts style, middle of the night, and walks out the door. And so there's a couple things with this. One, he has every right to go. So I don't care. Like, you can go. Personally, I think he's doing the school a favor because he clearly doesn't want to be there. And that, for whatever reasons, whether it's they put a lot more money into their program because they don't have football, which is one of the things that's materializing right now, that is I would think, that is partially a reason to want to get back into that conference. Do you want to be in this place over the Big Ten? That's kind of on you. And if that's what your goals are and that's what you want, fine. I think he's doing them a favor. I talked about this for the last week or so when this all came up. As someone who watches a lot of their games, is a big fan of their program and wishes the best for it and knows a lot of people in and around it and wants it to be great. I got to tell you, I thought he was an average coach. And I talked about this a week ago. So the howling, which I'll talk about in a moment, that's coming from Maryland, I would think, at least from my perspective, is not about how good or not good of a coach he is. It has everything to do with what he did on the way out here, the way he lied about everything, and the way he set them back in a way that I think was ridiculous. It was cowardly, and it is terrible what he's done to a program that has a rich history, that paid him very well, that took him from Seton Hall to bring him here, has given him everything they could give him. He can complain about it, but everything they could give him. And this is how he returns that to them, is to lie to their face and to be working on getting out of the place in the midst of the best season that they've had. He made their run to the Sweet 16 honestly about him purposefully. And he took all of the attention that players in the program away from it. He did that. He could have just laid low, said nothing about any of it, and let the process play out. And now there's a big part of me off of what happened here that kind of wishes that Derek Queen didn't make that shot. And they lost to Colorado State, because that following week, this year isn't going to be remembered for that. It's going to be remembered for what this guy did. And it's so unprofessional. You want to leave for a different job, fine. Do you have to lie and take down a program with you? Like, you don't. That's a choice. And this is why I think everybody is mad at him. I am not mad that they lost the coach, Kevin Willard. I am mad that he firebombed the whole program, aired dirty laundry about it, and then was walking out the door anyway. Dude, like, take the high road, learn how to do it. You clearly don't. Your character, good riddance, and I'm glad you're gone, because you should not represent a program like this. This is how you comport yourself.
CBS Sports did a fantastic write-up of the whole thing. And
I
think,
read it.
And I think what stood out to me was, for some reason, Willard was, and we've realized this in the last 10 days, right? He was pissed about the revenue share between football and basketball. Well, what pisses me off about
he's not the only one. A lot of these big conference,
Sure.
like, I don't believe, let me just say this up front and I'll let you finish your thought. I don't believe Nate Oates is leaving Alabama to come to Maryland. Like, that's a joke. When he says, I don't like the revenue share of football to basketball, well, that's Willard's problem here at Maryland too. He'd go from a place that has more money to one that has less money in what is actually, I would say, I mean, well, we'll see about which conference is what, but the SEC had an enormous year in basketball. He's not doing one of those guys that looks at any big job and goes, I'll just say I like it to try to get more money out of the school to keep me here.
Not to mention, like, that's the best football program in the country, like, bar none, right? So, like, what else could you actually say on that? But I like that CBS pointed out, like, he was saying this 2 years ago. And to me, like, drawing my own conclusions were, well, didn't you know that heading into the program? Like, you had to have, like, known that Maryland was going to try to float their athletic program and try to make money on their athletic program by being good enough in football to be dragged along by the Big Ten. Like, you knew what you were signing up for. So now him mouthing off and kind of bitching about that, it's even worse in retrospect, because you were already starting to bitch about it, but you also knew what you were signing on to. Like, you were not going to change the landscape of how they were sharing things. Not to mention, Maryland said they were about to, like, make concessions, about to give him more money, about to give him a bigger part of the rev share. And instead, none of that actually mattered. And that's where I guess I'm more irked than anything, that you all of a sudden it started stoking these negotiation flames, knowing you weren't ever really going to come to the table and come back to Maryland, because you were already bitching about how the Big East was better than the Big Ten at that point. I just thought they did a great job of pointing out the red flags that we should have probably seen along the way, but we didn't, because he had a good team this year. And what did he do? He used that good team as a stepping stone to get back to where he wanted. And now that's Villanova's problem, because a guy that acts like that at his age, good luck with that. Like, the fact that he didn't figure out how to leave gracefully for the second time. He didn't even leave Seton Hall gracefully the first time. So I would say this: good luck, Villanova. And now you have to worry about looking over your shoulder the whole time, because you don't know where he could go at this point.
Oh, I think this is endgame for him. And I also think, and I'll go back to, this is why I'm not upset, is I think he's probably a good coach. He's not a great one. Go look at his record. Like, someone pointed out, 2 years ago, they were an under 500 team 2 years ago.
Right.
Under 500, right? Last year, they got Derek Queen to show up. He's an NBA lottery pick. Duh, they're good. Like, no kidding. They have one of the best players in the country playing on their team. Of course they're going to end up being good. They have a guy who's probably going to get picked number 5, in the NBA draft. Like, of course they're going to end up being good. But I've said all along, I've been complaining for a couple of years now. I watch his teams play. I see no discernible offense that gets run whatsoever. I thought it showed itself really well in the Florida game, and I thought it was a prime example of it. There was no structure to what they were doing. Once they got down, they just started jacking up shots. They became a really poor rebounding team at the worst part of the season. Like, I just don't think that they're the best coach team. I'm not suggesting he's a bad coach or anything like that, or he doesn't have a pedigree or doesn't have experience. I've never been overly impressed with that part of it. Can he recruit? It looks like he can. He's basically screaming, though, if you don't give me top tier money, then I can't win. Every coach in the country is going to be yelling about this type of stuff, but some of them are going to make good with what they have. He's not one of those people. He feels like he's at a disadvantage. And I'm sitting there going, buddy, you're at this program. It's not like, and then when somebody wrote in CBS Sports that they're actually in like the top 4 of the Big Ten in money that's being spent on a basketball program, I'm sitting there going, that's not good enough for you. You can't win with that. Just because you go somewhere else, you're not going to get every great player to come to your team. This isn't Coach Cal one and done, the time when he was able to tell all the great players, just come here. We're going to get you through one great year. We might win together. I'll ship you off to the NBA. You're going to be a lottery pick. And he wasn't lying when he said that. We're in a different world right now. The world that he thinks he's is that if he gets a little more resources, he's going to get every great player to play for him. No, he's not. Like Rick Pitino has money. So does Calipari has money. So does North Carolina. So does Duke. So does Kansas. So does UConn. All these places, you're competing with them. If you think, you'll get more money from them, that doesn't mean these players are going to come play for you. And that's where it's ridiculous, too. It's not like I will hear out Maryland's got to do better. They do. I agree with all of that. Like that part is true. And I think the best part about this moving forward is it just got put out in the open. Their dirty laundry was aired, and they're going to be forced to change whatever they're doing to try to get more money into the system to help the basketball program that is important for them. But they don't need to do it with somebody who has unrealistic expectations of what they're going to have at their disposal. And he's walking into a place where I think he's going to be sorely disappointed, finds out that they don't have the things that he wants to, because nobody does.
No, that's exactly right. And in that CBS story, by the way, like they mentioned about how the interim AD is the one that balances the books, and she was the one that had to deny that Christmas trip, right? Or the extra day in New York or whatever, right? Well, I think all this does bare minimum. If I'm a big Maryland booster or alum, I'm asking, where's the money going? Like, where are we spending all of this? Because to me, that doesn't sound like the most outlandish thing in the world. But you need to tell me where we're spending this so I can see, where the money is going at this point. Because I'm not saying you have like this embarrassment of riches if you're Maryland basketball. Don't get me wrong. But when they have the opportunity to do a thing here or there, shouldn't you have the ability to do that? Why isn't that approved? Like, I think what this is going to do, especially with getting a new AD as well, is you're not going to overhaul it, but you're going to get to audit basically where we're spending money here. Because if he's complaining about that, maybe there is a valid gripe about a new coach that comes in and says, I do want to do a couple of things here and there. How do I figure that out?
In Villanova, and people are calling this a really great job because they are going to put a lot of money towards it, but they are in a conference that could spend, put more resources toward it because there is no football there. Right now, the best teams, the teams that were ahead of them in the Big East standings were St. John's, who's got money now, Rick Pitino as their coach,
yep.
Creighton, who's been a very, very good program, but is going to fall into this category of will they be able to compete once the money gets bigger and bigger and bigger. UConn, who's two-time defending champion. Hurley isn't leaving. He turned down the Lakers, not going anywhere. Marquette with Shaka Smart, they're doing well. And Xavier. And then there's others like we hope that Georgetown will get back to a place. It does, I think Ed Cooley's actually doing a nice job. This was a nice year for him. But they're going to have to get back. Are they actually going to spend like this to keep up with the Joneses in these conferences? I look at this and I go, I see a road for him, for his team to be number 3 or 4 in the Big East. But, this will come back to you're not getting every great player, and you're not a better coach than Pitino or Hurley. So I wish you and Villanova, I wish you a lot of luck with this. Is there any part of you today that has watched how he's acted over the last couple of weeks and gone, I don't know if I can trust this guy?
Right.
And they need to ask that question of themselves today.
This is your typical, this was so ugly on the way out. You now need to stand up there and tell your boosters, your alumni, and your students, this is who we're going to now stand behind. And I know a lot of that gets shuffled under the rug because they got their guy. But to me, that's always been like the icky part about college sports. Some of these guys don't know how to bow out gracefully. And he did it about as bad as you could. It was a, 10-day crusade against the program with no intention of fixing things. And now you have to hope that he doesn't do that to you as well. So that's where I've landed here too, is good luck having to spin that to everybody, because he also seems like the type of individual that is super sensitive when you do try to say any of this stuff anyways. Like, I don't know. I was kind of thinking about it over the weekend. Mark Turgeon kind of just bowed out. And I think the program and Turgeon, they were both ready to move on, right? Like, I feel like that was accurate with Turge. And Turge just bowed out by saying, oh, my family couldn't handle, like, hearing the criticism in the crowd. Whatever he wanted to say, it was over. He bowed out. They moved on. This was 10 days. And then, as the CBS piece points out, little pot shots all along the way that he was, like, never quite comfortable here. And, man, is there something to be said about that in today's day and age, that you keep kind of revealing and you reveal publicly that you don't like where you're supposed to belong. There's something to be said about that.
I want to say something to Maryland too. And I think this is the best advice I can give. Like, and I think it's important. Yes, next year's going to be terrible. Next year's going to be terrible because the point at which this happened, this is why I'm so angry at this guy. If he had just left or been just a little more honest about it or whatever and said, listen, we're going to get through this run, but things are going to change. I just want to be honest with you, then I think like Maryland would have taken steps to deal with next year, right? The portal's opening up. They got to start talking about the next coach, all that stuff. But he didn't. And he pushed the AD over the edge. And he blew up, he just blew up publicly. And I would just say this. Everyone's rushing because they're going, oh my God, they better get a coach or they're going to be terrible. For a year, in a new era where you buy the players and the transfer portal opens every year, this can actually flip back in your favor in 1 year. But this is why this year is so important for them. Don't look at whatever the year as an indication of where things are going. They need to slow down, take a breath, hire the AD, and I think a GM first. Go get a coach, even if it's just for an interim basis, because the reality is what you need to do is get your system back in check. You need to get your ducks in a row a little differently. You need to line up where the money funnel is going to come from. You're going to have to make choices about what kind of revenue split do you really want to have between football and basketball. And that's what this year is going to be about, to me. Figure that stuff out before you rush and go spend a lot of money to get some big name coach to try to appease everybody who thinks that, oh my God, this is so embarrassing. We need to do something about it. I actually don't think that's the way to go about this. I think they hire the right modern athletic director, hire the right modern general manager. Let them figure out over the next 6, 8, 9 months, target who the coach is going to be, even if it's not here now. You may have to deal with like an interim coach, and come next year, be ready with the guns out blazing to hit the portal and hit NIL and hit all that stuff in a really positive way, and then go attract your coach. This is going to be an attractive job to a lot of people. It's just you're in a very difficult situation because of what this guy did to you. Don't rush to do something to get a good headline. Take it on the chin. Take the lesson that he got out there about you, that things need to be done differently anyway. Figure that out and call me next year when you are offering this job to somebody and you're telling them, oh, by the way, this is how we're going to attack the portal now. Because in college basketball, your team around with money in a year. So Maryland, slow down. Don't do anything rash. Take it on the chin a little bit and just say, we are going to work to get this thing in a place where we believe we can compete at the highest level, and it may take us a year. Be patient with us.
And at the same time, to go and poach somebody's NIL person. Like, that's what I would do here too. There is a clear cut lack. I don't want to call it lack of funding, because it's not lack of funding, but lack of innovation when it comes to their NIL stuff. And I don't know what you do to improve, but go find that person that has done it, because at this point you can start poaching those people too. There's now been a runway here where people have come up with different collectives and now figured out how to funnel money into a program through doing different things. Go poach that person too, because clearly I think they need to step that up a little bit as well.
Yes, 100%. All right, I'll be right back. Bram Boyce the Show, ESPN 630 Sports Capital.
Eczema isn't always obvious, but it's real. And so is the relief from Ebglyss. After an initial dosing phase of 16 weeks, about 4 in 10 people taking Ebglyss achieved itch relief and clear or almost clear skin. And most of those people maintain skin that's still more clear at 1 year with monthly dosing.
Ebglyss, lebrikizumab LBKZ, a 250 milligram per 2 milliliter injection, is a prescription medicine used to treat adults and children 12 years of age and older who weigh at least 88 pounds or 40 kilograms with moderate to severe eczema, also called atopic dermatitis, that is not well controlled with prescription therapies used on the skin or topicals, or who cannot use topical therapies. Ebglyss can be used with or without topical corticosteroids. Don't use if you're allergic to Ebglyss. Allergic reactions can occur that can be severe. Eye problems can occur. Tell your doctor if you have new or worsening eye problems. You should not receive a live vaccine when treated with Ebglyss. Before starting Ebglyss, tell your doctor if you have a parasitic infection.
Searching for real relief? Ask your doctor about Ebglyss and visit ebglyss.lilly.com or call 1-800-LILY-RX or 1-800-545-5979.
Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like, to check the Jumbotron first, before attempting to eat a stack of Supreme nachos in one bite. Now you're just a meme that everyone shares on game day. Checking first is smart, so check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary, subject to terms, conditions, and availability. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
All right, welcome back. The baseball season has a controversy. The Yankees are using bats that look illegal. They're not, but they look it. No other team is using these things because they hired some scientist to create them for them. They clearly didn't show them off in spring training or people would have known about them. All of a sudden, they play the first series of the season. They hit 85 home runs. Clearly, they're at an advantage. This sport never, ever gets their arms around something before it's a scandal. And this is. They have the proprietary license on this particular model of bat. So it's not like everyone else goes, all right, well, you give us those too. No, they can't have them. This team is going to have these bats this whole season. No one else is going to have them. And it's going to mar your entire season the whole time, especially if they break records with these things. You dum-dums. You never learn. Those things may or may not be illegal, but the fact that the Yankees had them made, done in secret, baseball had to know because they had to approve that they were going to allow them to use them, only to go, surprise, the team everybody hates has what appears to be a wild advantage in games. Why would you let them get away with something like that?
They hit, I think, 15 home runs, which is the most in their first opening series in Yankees history. That's a massive history, by the way, like 100 and whatever years of history for the Yankees as a franchise. And I'm with you. How did you not step in game one and just go, you're doing what? You're using those bats?
What?
Like, I mean, I get it. Maybe off the first game, you're going, okay, that's an anomaly. Well, we're 3 games in now and they're hitting all these home runs. Look, and the other part about this too was the Orioles were asked about this yesterday because, of course, it's becoming now the story in baseball. The Orioles literally had to come out and not come out, but the statement by them was, yeah, we're working on it behind the scenes. AKA, well, if they're not going to ban it, we're going to get our own torpedo bats now too. So I don't know what this is going to tell me. How they handle this is going to tell me everything I need to know about baseball moving forward. That if the Yankees are doing something to take an advantage and it doesn't become illegal, well, we know where the loyalty lies in the league. And as well, don't think that Rob Manfred's going to do the right thing. He almost never does the right thing when it comes to baseball. And I could see him shrugging his shoulders and going, more home runs. That makes it better for, people watching at home. I have a feeling this might not go away. Like the way that we're looking at it, they might just say, maybe this is better for the game.
The people who are in charge of enforcing the rules in this game are never serious people.
Right.
Like if this was created and a team wanted to use them, it should have been publicized. There's a new bat coming.
Yes. Yeah.
You don't have to use it, right? But It's available and the Yankees have some kind of proprietary thing. So they're going to make money on it, but you can use it. You could buy them, you could purchase them, you could use them, you could not use them. They're legal. The surprise, there's a crazy new bat that the Yankees are using that no one even knew existed. Guys, Like, are you kidding? Like, who enforces the rules in your sport? Like, it just looks terrible. Anyway, there's that. Real quick. You got shellacked yesterday by those Sabres. What's that about?
The only person that I actually heard that, wasn't just burning the tape was Jacob Chikrin yesterday. And Chikrin basically said they went from jumping and playing against all of these playoff teams to a team that isn't going to make the playoffs and was taking all of these risks that essentially was just like, they're going to let you have your chances and then they're going to swing it back the other way. The score was indicative of that, 8-5. I mean, we haven't seen one of those games in a long time. That was bar none the Caps' worst game of the year, though, defensively, offensively. Logan Thompson looked out of sorts, like not just missing, goals, but like really like looking out of sorts on some of the breakaway chances. That's one where I burned the tape here. I'm a little concerned about it, but at the same time, they're not going to see Buffalo. And to pull the curtain back here on Buffalo, Buffalo does this every freaking year. They suck for about 3/4 of the season, and then the season's going to be over with, and all of their young stars just decide, we're going to play free, guys. And all they do is play themselves out of a lottery pick. And I'm telling you, it's been happening for 10 years. So this just happens with Buffalo, where they don't know how to play hockey for most of the season, and then they decide to play run and gun style. And you get a team like the Caps that are trying to get ready for the playoffs that are just not ready for it. Slightly worried off of it, but overall, burn the tape on this one. They have bad teams again this week, where they play the Bruins tomorrow. Then they play the Hurricanes on Wednesday. That's a good team. Back-to-back is going to be tough. And then they play the Blackhawks on the weekend. They'll get back to it, but Buffalo is also one where, like, don't pay attention to what they do. They always stink.
2 games with the Hurricanes over the next 10 days. If they win them both, they'll be the 1 seed, like, period. Yeah. Like, that's the only real situation, is they have to lose those, and this has to spiral them, I think, to make it bad. But I hope hopefully it won't. We'll see. All right, Bram, what's the show? ESPN 630.